inflation. The banking system, I would say, is quite sound. The banks have solid balance sheets, assets are growing, deposits are growing, income of banks is growing. We have maintained enough capital for the banks. We have maintained enough liquidity for the banks. In looking at international standards for capital, our banks are well above those standards in terms of capital. Looking at liquidity standards, international liquidity standards, our banks also hold liquidity that far exceeds the international standard. At the same time, the loans are not so risky. The NPL ratio is only 3%, and the banks have enough provisions to cover those non-performing loans. When it comes to savings, I think our most effective policies to raise savings in a country like the Philippines, where the savings rate tends to be quite low, I think the most effective way to raise the savings of our people is two things: digitalization and financial inclusion. In terms of digitalization, our retail payments are now at 57.4% digitalized. So among retail payments, 57% is digitalized. When it comes to bank accounts, 26.2 million households now hold basic deposit accounts. These are the simpler deposit accounts that are easier to open and doesn't require minimum balances. We have 26 million households in the Philippines, so 26 million basic deposit accounts means on the average each household has a basic deposit account. Of course, some households will have more than one. So some households would still not have the basic deposit accounts. Externally, Mr. Chair, our international reserves are more than ample. We now hold $105 billion worth of international reserves. By the usual rules for international reserves, we have more than enough. In fact, when it comes to what's called the Greenspan-Guidotti rule, which is how much reserves you should hold against short-term debt, that rule says we should hold 100% of short-term debt in the form of international reserves. In fact, we hold 3 times that. When it comes to imports, the usual rule is we should hold at least 3 months' worth of imports. Our actual reserves are 7 times that. So when it comes to the external side, we are in a very good position. So that, Mr. Chair, is our macroeconomic context. The chart shows you the macroeconomic assumptions. We say inflation will rise to between 2 and 3% in 25, and in 26, 2 to 4%. Dubai crude oil will be between $60 and $70. The exchange rate will be between 56 and 58. Today it's around 57. The 364-day US T-bill rate will be between 5 and 6%, and in 2026 between 4.5 and 5.5%. The short-term SOFR rate, the secured overnight financing rate, globally, we assume will be between 3.5 and 4.5%, and then a bit lower in 2026. Exports, we expect to decline this year by 2% and rise next year by 2%. Imports, we expect to rise by 3.5% this year and grow by 4% next year. Mr. Chair, that's my summary of macroeconomic developments. I think we're in good shape in terms of implementing our budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor Remolona. We'll now go on to the Department of Finance. represented by Yusek Adriano? Well, or who's representing, who's going to make the presentation? To Yusek Tuiseco.
Good morning, everyone. So I will be presenting a portion of our secretary's presentation. Just to provide some overview first, next slide. So to start with, this administration came at a time when we needed to rescue an economy flatlined by the pandemic. Bumagsak ang ating ekonomiya ng 9.5%, pinakamababa mula World War II. And the past administration left us with a massive debt of 12.8 trillion pesos. Next slide. And against this backdrop, we navigate an ocean of global uncertainties. Nariyan ang Russia-Ukraine war, El Nino, Israel-Gaza war, Israel-Iran war, geopolitical tensions with China, a Cold War, and now the rise of trade wars. Around that time, we crafted the first medium-term fiscal framework in 2022. The world still hoped for a smooth post-pandemic recovery. But these geopolitical tensions interrupted this recovery. Next slide. That's why when the secretary took over, his first move was to recalibrate our growth and fiscal targets. We now review these targets regularly to keep them attainable, realistic, and adaptive to global headwinds while staying firmly anchored on sustainable growth. Next slide. Our refined fiscal program now charts a realistic path to reduce our deficit and debt while creating more jobs, raising incomes, and lifting millions of Filipinos out of poverty along the way. And crucial to this is ensuring that every peso collected or borrowed by the Department of Finance will be stretched to deliver the biggest bang per buck for the Filipino people. To put it into perspective, the 2025 national budget stands at 6.35 trillion pesos, of which only 4.64 trillion pesos are supportable by revenues. Ibig sabihin, ang gastusin ng gobyerno ay aabot sa 17.4 bilyong piso kada araw, but only 12.72 billion pesos per day will be financed by revenue collections. Monday to Sunday, every 24 hours, kada 24 oras. At nagpapasalamat po kami sa ating mga taxpayers, lalo na sa ating mga middle class, para sa kanilang sipag, tiyaga at ambag para umasenso ang ating bayan. Next slide. So far, we are on track to meet our targets, with revenue collections growing by double digits from the last 3 years at an average of 13.8% annually. Tax collections have also consistently expanded at an average of 11.5% annually. In fact, in 2024, we achieved a revenue effort of 16.7% of GDP, the highest in the last 27 years. We are also on course to meet our fiscal program for the year, having already achieved half of our targets. As of mid-year, our tax collections continued to post double-digit growth, totaling 2.03 trillion pesos. This is 10.7% higher than last year. This robust performance placed us among Asia's top revenue to GDP ratios at 16.7% for the first half of 2025. Our expenditures also grew by 9.5% in the first half of the year, reaching 3.03 trillion pesos. Meanwhile, our fiscal deficit for the first half stood at 765.5 billion pesos within our mid-year target. As a percentage of GDP, our deficit remains manageable at 5.7% for the first semester. Our full-year target is 5.5%. With tax collections projected to grow by an average of 10.2% annually from 2025 to 2028, total revenues are on track to hit nearly 6 trillion pesos by the end of the president's term. By 2030, our total revenues will hit 7 trillion pesos. This means that we're asking the BIR and BOC to work harder and boost efficiency at a faster pace. Our projections also took into account the additional revenues from recently enacted reforms, including the VAT on digital service providers, the Capital Markets Efficiency Promotion Act. We also expect more revenues from the rationalization of the mining fiscal regime and explore the possibility of having a general tax amnesty. With higher government revenue collections and improved expenditure management, our fiscal deficit is projected to drop from the pandemic high of 8.6% in 2021 to 5.5% in 2025 and down to about 4% by 2028. It will further drop to around 3% by 2030. And crucial to this in ensuring that we prevent wasteful spending. Mr. Chair, so I will end the presentation here. The other slides can be presented by our secretary tomorrow.
Thank you, Yusek Adriano. We'll call on Department of Economy, Planning and Development, represented by Yusek Edilion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Honorable Senate President Chis Escudero and Honorable Chairperson Sherwin Gatchalian of the Committee on Finance, honorable members of the Senate, Senator Tulfo, Senator Migsubiri, Senator J.V. Ejercito, Senator Ping Lacson, Senator Bam Makena, and Senator Lauren Legarda, Senator Amy Marcos, and our Secretary of the DBM, Sec Amena, and Governor Eli Remolona, colleagues in government, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. So on behalf of the DBCC, I would like to thank the Senate Committee on Finance for this opportunity to present an update on the progress achieved under the Philippine Development Plan 2023 to 2028, along with the economic outlook and policy priorities for the remainder of the Marcos administration. The presentation will cover 3 parts, as indicated in this outline on the screen. So allow me to begin with the socioeconomic context and what we have achieved so far. So launched in December of 2022, the PDP 2023 to 2028 serves as our nation's medium-term development roadmap. It outlines the strategies, programs, policies, and legislative priorities that must be implemented for us to achieve our development goals. As a document produced after the COVID-19 pandemic, the PDP aims to reinvigorate job creation, accelerate poverty reduction, and steer our economy back on a high growth path towards a prosperous, inclusive, and resilient society. The plan is framed by the Marcos administration's 8-point socioeconomic agenda and anchored on the Filipino people's long-term vision, our Ambisyon Natin 2040. The PDP aims to drive comprehensive transformation across the social and economic sectors while strengthening the enabling environment, our institutions, regulatory and policy frameworks, and the physical infrastructure that supports them. This table shown on the screen summarizes our progress over the past 2 years. The economy grew 5.5% in 2023 and then 5.7% in 2024, placing us among the fastest growing economy in emerging Asia, despite various global and domestic headwinds. Our per capita gross national income increased from about $4,000 in 2022 to $4,470 in 2024. And growth has been accompanied by strong labor market outcomes, with unemployment falling and the share of wage and salaried workers